Sienna Moretti. Vittorio is coming with me to my parents' house, and I don't know how to subtly make him stay. When I decided to leave tonight with Livia, it was because I want to give him some time away from me. I do not want him to edge closer to destruction just because his wife is destructive. Kindness and care only goes a long way, and I would rather have him as a stranger who doesn't recognize than have him closer and hurting. The bruise on his forehead hurts every time I look at it, taking its sweet time in healing, like serving as a reminder of how dangerous and destructive I am for him. Everything is packed, Livia announced, slumping on the bed. Now about the tickets. Vittorio has booked the tickets, I signed to her. Livia nodded, choosing to scroll on her phone when she had nothing left to do. I headed to the kitchen, setting the dinner table, waiting for his arrival, with a nervousness blooming in my chest. My main motive to visit my parents for a few days was to get away from him, to give him more space, to make him understand that I am harmful. But now that he has decided he wants to come as well, I do not know how I am going to convince him to not. The chain of my thoughts broke when the doorbell rang. Wiping my hands on the kitchen towel, I rushed to open the door. A feeling of joy bloomed in my chest upon seeing his face. It has started becoming a routine, the joy in my heart whenever his face comes in my sight. And this right here is the reason I need to get away from him. He deserves better. We might be married, but we don't have to stay married out whole life. Once things gets better between Vittorio's boss and my father, we can go our own ways. The thought leaves a painful ache, but I ignored it. I stepped aside, giving him space to enter the house. "The flight is in 5 hours, he announced as soon as he entered. Glancing at me over his shoulder, he raised an eyebrow. "Is everything packed?" I gave him a slow nod. He returned it with a tight smile. I started to head to guest room to call Livia for dinner when Vittorio shouted, doing the same. "Livia!" He settled down, turning his plate. "The dinner is ready." "Coming," I heard her respond as Vittorio served himself, and when he noticed that I was still standing at my place, he gestured me to take the seat next to him. My heart swelled with a hope I shouldn't be cherishing, but I let myself enjoy the few moments. So I sat down next to him, my eyes fleeting towards his face, drinking in the sight of him like it might be the last time I would get to see him. "Sienna." He called my name softly, snapping me out of my thoughts. I looked up at him with raised eyebrows. "I am allergic to peanuts," he told me when I was serving him the rice stir-fry with peanuts. Instantly, I pulled my hand back before I could serve it in his bowl. I have heard how deadly and dangerous peanut allergies can be, but I didn't know until now that he did. What does that say about me as his wife, careless, self-absorbed? "Then why do you have peanut butter?" I signed, frowning, leaning forward as he took a bite of his salad. He chewed, taking his sweet time before answering me. "Because you like it." He continued his dinner casually, adding, "You never finish your toast without it." My eyes softened, my heart skipped a beat, and I felt a flutter in my stomach. How does he know everything about me? And how am I still so clueless about him? I didn't even know about his allergies. My eyes dropped to his lips, glistening because of the glass of water he just downed. The desire rose, my hands itched, and my lips tingled at the memory of the way he grabbed me by the nape of my neck, kissing me. Heat crawled up to my neck, but it didn't last long as the aftermath came rushing like an ugly reminder. And just like that, it became easy to take my eyes off him and focus on the plate of food in front of me. Livia finally joined us, and the rest of the dinner was spent in silence on my part, as Livia's curiosity kept Vittorio busy. After dinner, when we retired to our own respective rooms for rest before we drove to the airport, I waited for a while, gathering the courage before heading back to his room. I stood in front of the closed door, revising what should I say in there and how should I convince him to stay back. Heaving out a breath, I lifted my hand and knocked on the door. My heart pounded against my chest, but I curled my fingers into tight fists, buying myself some strength. When the doors were pulled open, I forgot all I had spent repeating over and over in my head again. He is wearing a cotton t-shirt paired with sweatpants. His hair damp like he just stepped out of a shower, the wild strands falling over his forehead, kissing his eyebrows. I gawked at him unblinkingly, almost like I have forgotten breathing as well. "Sienna," he asked, voice gentle, low enough to make me wonder if he already knew why I was here. I swallowed, trying to remember how to speak, how to move, how to breathe without trembling. "Can we talk?" He stepped aside, wordlessly letting me in. I moved past him, eyes trained on the soft light spilling across the carpet, the steady rhythm of his breath behind me. The room smelled faintly of citrus shampoo and laundry detergent, clean, warm, familiar, painfully familiar. I sat down at the edge of the bed, folding my hands in my lap. My fingers twisted the hem of my sleeve as he closed the door and leaned against it like he needed the wall to hold him up. "I think you should stay," I signed, finally gathering all the courage. Vittorio raised an eyebrow, stepping away from the door, and toward me with that slow, deliberate grace he always had, like nothing in the world could rush him. "Why?" I hesitated, fingers curling into fists at my sides. "Because they're my parents. You'll be bored." He gave a short, amused huff. "They're my in-laws." I glanced at him, but he wasn't smiling. He was watching me intently, like he was trying to read between the lines of what I was saying and what I was hiding. "And besides," he added, voice quieter now, "I'll have you. I won't be bored." The words sat between us like a confession. My cheeks heated instantly, and I looked away before he could see too much. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. He was supposed to agree, maybe grumble a little, but then say he understood and stay behind. That was the plan. That was the safe thing. But he was making it impossible to do the safe thing. "I'm going because I love them." I signed, desperate now to make this about something he couldn't argue with. "I can love my in-laws too," he countered, soft but steady. I don't think he meant it. I sighed again, softer this time. Not out of frustration, but because I didn't know what else to do with this man who kept insisting on choosing me over and over, even when I was trying so hard to make him see why he shouldn't. "I'm just going for a few days," I signed slowly and almost carefully. "I know," he replied just as softly. "I'll be fine." "I know that too. And you'll be fine here." He didn't respond to that one. I looked at him, then really looked, and found him watching me, eyes steady and unreadable, arms still loose at his sides, but his shoulders, they had that slight tilt, like something inside him was shifting, leaning, reaching. He took a step forward, measured, quiet, like he was afraid a sound would break the moment. I didn't move. And then he took another. I held his gaze, heart thudding like a warning I wasn't going to listen to. The space between us was shrinking, but it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like gravity. And suddenly he was close. So close I could see the water clinging to the ends of his hair, the slight flush at the curve of his neck from the shower, and the softness in his eyes. And God help me, I almost kissed him again. My lips parted. His gaze dropped to my mouth. I could feel the air vibrating with that dangerous, delicate possibility. My hand twitched by my side. One step, that's all it would take. 1 second of forgetting everything. But the memory came crashing in the bruise. The blue eyes, the scream, the way I had pushed him, and how my own hands had shaken after. I stepped back like I'd touched fire, and he let me go. Only just as I turned to leave, he said it, quietly. "You know," he murmured, "it's not fair you're asking me to stay behind when you've already packed the only thing I'd want to bring with me." Vittorio Moretti. 2 days in Russia. 3 days of being ignored by my own wife like I'm some deadly airborne contagion. 72 hours. 4,320 minutes. Not that I was counting. I've been disliked before, hated even. I've had knives pointed at my back, contracts on my head, and politicians spit my name like it's poison. But never in my life have I been so thoroughly, painfully ignored that I've considered bashing my head against the nearest wall just so she'd finally check if I was still breathing. Or at least, acknowledge my existence. Look me in the eyes. It's a skill what she's doing, art even. She'll sit with her parents, sip tea, converse about the weather, smile like the world is perfect. And the second we're back in our room, it's like I've ceased to exist. Like she's moved into some parallel universe where I'm not standing 5 feet away losing my damn mind. 2 days of this torture, and I've realized something. I can't take it anymore. I need her to look at me, meet my eyes, smile at me, hell, even frown at me, or I might just die a pitiful death. The kind where the doctor shakes his head and says, "No clue, maybe heartbreak or chronic neglect. I step into the room and find her curled in a chair near the window, knees drawn up, head bent over a diary. The soft scratch of her pen is the only sound. Outside, snow drifts lazily from the sky like cotton, and for a moment I just stand there watching her. The snow is beautiful, but she makes it ethereal. I can't decide if the snowfall lends her its quiet grace, or if she's the one blessing it simply by allowing it to exist so close to her. Close enough to touch. Unlike me. I tell myself I'm all for giving her space, but this isn't space anymore. This is distance. Dangerous distance. It feels like we're stranded on a creaking rope bridge, the planks beneath us swaying the drop beneath yawning wide. Her hand is still in mine for now, but it's slipping. And if she lets go, if she turns away entirely, we'll drift apart before I even have the chance to process how it happened. So yes, I'm desperate. Desperate enough to clutch her hand tighter, even if it leaves me hanging off the edge of her world. And if luck is still on my side, if there's any left, maybe she'll pull me up. I close the door behind me. It's our room, technically. Her parents showed us here without hesitation, called it your room, and she didn't correct them. She didn't let me ask for a separate one either for her comfort. I don't know why a mercy or a punishment, but I've learned not to question what little I'm given. I cross the room. She doesn't look up, doesn't even shift in her seat. I could be a ghost for all she knows or cares. Just a faint change in the air, a presence you might sense if you were paying attention. She isn't. Are you ignoring me? The words tasted bitter before they even left my mouth, but I said them anyway because I knew the answer. She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't so much as twitch in my direction. That quiet difference, God, it slid straight through me like a blade and lodged deep in my chest. Sienna, did I do something wrong? My voice broke somewhere near the end, my steps carrying me closer without me realizing. Am I something wrong? The last part came out softer, almost careful, like the wrong tone might send her even further away. She stiffened. I saw it, felt it. But she didn't look at me, didn't answer. Just bent over her diary like my voice wasn't real, like my feelings were something she could step over on the way to the next sentence. I stepped in front of her, blocking her view of the snow outside her window. She didn't lift her head. My jaw locked so tight it ached, my hands curling into fists, not to stop myself from hurting her, but from touching her, from making her see me. Sienna, her name was just a whisper now. Her pen faltered just for a heartbeat. Then she kept writing, scribbling something sharp and deliberate onto the page. I forced my jaw to relax, sinking down on my knees so I was level with her, my palms braced on the arms of her chair. She leaned back, not away in fear, but with that calculated distance that told me exactly how much she wanted me gone. Her eyes slid past my face like looking at me was a punishment she couldn't bear to give herself. Sienna, look at me, I said, forcing my voice to stay soft, though it cost me effort. She blinked, eyes fixed on the bed, offering no reply. Sienna, my voice sharpened. Eyes on me. It was no longer a request. When she didn't obey my hand, Rose fingers curling under her chin, I turned her face to mine gently, yet with the kind of insistence no one could mistake. Our eyes collided, hers soft, yet wild, like they were built to tear my sanity apart. Heat bled from her skin into my palms, searing through me. Don't look away, I warned, as soon as I read the thought of doing same in her eyes. Talk to me, Sienna, I murmured, desperation threading every syllable. I know this is about that night. Something flickered in her gaze, recognition faint, but there. I took it as a victory, no matter how small. My heart was slamming against my ribs, threatening to split me open, but I didn't care. She was looking at me. She was letting me touch her. If I died here, I'd die a happy man. I leaned closer, still holding her chin, our breaths mingling in the winter air, her warmth wrapped around me like a blanket I never wanted to crawl out from. Tell me, I pleaded. Tell me what happened before me, what made you fear your own skin, what keeps you awake at night. My voice was low but edged with steel. Ignoring me isn't the option because I am not going anywhere. Neither of us blinked. I searched her face, my chest tightening as the question I'd been burying for days clawed its way up my throat. "Did someone hurt you?" Her lashes lowered like the question is a weight she refuses to carry. The words lodged in my throat, jagged and choking. I forced them out anyway. "Sienna." My grip tightens a fraction. "Were you—" The word sticks in my throat. It tastes like blood and bile. "Sexually assaulted." The very thought burned through me like acid, someone touching her wrong, stealing the light from her eyes. It made my blood pound with violent purpose. If someone had hurt her, I would make sure their last breath was one they regretted taking. But when I looked at her again, moisture coated her eyes and fresh tears brimmed at the corner of her eyes as she gently shook her head in a silent no. My brows pinched together and confusion washed over me. Then, as if understanding my confusion, she signed with her hands, "No." Then with trembling fingers she signed slowly, "Maybe it would have been better if I was—" The silence swelled between us, heavy and unbearable, folding the room in on itself. After that long, hollow beat, she added when a tear rolled down her cheek, "At least then I would have been a victim." Vittorio Moretti. Sienna doesn't shed any more tears, not because she doesn't want to, but because they dry in her eyes like she's convinced herself that she doesn't deserve it, that the baggage on her shoulders is her punishment. Punishment for something she blames herself for. I crouch in front of her and then take her hands in mine, soft and fragile. Her eyes drop to lap like she's ashamed to meet mine, and it feels like a dagger passing through my heart. I squeeze her hands gently, and she looks up at me. "What do you mean, Sienna?" My words linger between us. The silence feels suffocating. This time, she doesn't sign. Retracting her hands from my grasp, she opens the diary in her lap and scribbles down the words in it before turning it to me. My eyes squint slightly as I read, "You don't want to know, Vittorio." My name sits in her diary, a little messy, yet beautiful. My eyes flick to her lips, wishing that one day I'll be lucky enough to see them mouthing the same word along with a sound that would fill every corner of my house. One day. If I can get her to share her pain today, it'll be the first step towards healing. I lean closer, hoping that having me near will fill her with the same kind of warmth she gives me. Her eyes glisten with tears, and she curls up further in the chair. "Please, Sienna." I plead, my voice low and careful, like the wrong tone could make or break things. "Let me in," I requested. A lonely tear rolls down her cheeks and lands right on the back of my hand, resting on her thigh. She shakes her head with teary eyes, breaking my heart over and over again. "You'll hate me." She signs her hands move quick and fast. I stretch on my toes, my eyes softening as I squeeze her thighs assuringly. "I can never hate you, Sienna." She shakes her head, more tears fell down. "That's the easiest thing to say when you know nothing." My heart twists with pain and I reach for her diary, open it, and place it in her lap before looking up at her again. "Just write it down here. Trust me." I spoke when I see the hesitation in her eyes. "Nothing I promise, nothing you ever say or do is going to make me hate you." Our eyes lock for a minute. She searches mine like she's looking for the lie I was hiding deep down or beneath the surface. Like she is desperate to believe that the words which left my mouth are a lie. But when she finds nothing, her hand reaches for the pen. With trembling fingers, she picks it up and starts writing in her diary. I sit in front of her, kneeling on the ground, my palms resting on her thighs because I can't bring myself to move away. Whenever her hands start losing the will to keep going, or when more tears stream down her cheeks than words, through the ink I squeeze her thigh comfortingly. But I don't say a word through it all. I just watch her silently, supporting her, comforting her, and just trying to make sure that the loneliness and darkness she's fought all her life don't find their way to creep back into her bones. Her shoulders shake as she sobs, her writing turning messy as her hands tremble harder, and I have to physically stop myself from throwing the damn diary and pen away to embrace her in my arms, because this is important. We need to get past this stage to climb the next stair of healing. When she's done, she closes it shut, sets it on the table next to her with a thud, and steps down from the chair, only to throw herself into my arms, taking me by surprise. But my arms instantly wrap around her body, holding her close to my heart as she sobs in my arms, her fingers clutching the fabric of my shirt like she's afraid to let go. I rub her back. "It's okay, Sienna," I murmur. "I am here." There's no sound to her cries, but there's so much pain that it seeped into my veins. My eyes turn glossy, even though I cannot remember the last time I cried. Her shoulders shake violently. She sobs and hiccups. She hid her face in my chest as my t-shirt soaks her tears. Blinking back my own tears, I run one hand over the length of her hair, keeping the other tighter. My throat tightens until swallowing feels like pain, and my jaw clenches against the words I'm afraid will crack my voice. "Your tears are breaking my heart, Sienna," I croak. But she doesn't stop. She clings to me like I am her anchor when she is drowning in the middle of an ocean with no sense of directions. My hold tightens around her like the air will abandon me if I let her go, like my soul will feel betrayed if I let her go. I don't know how long she cries in my arms, but it feels like an eternity, like the pain she stored in her heart is finally flowing out, giving her the space to feel. Once her cries reduce to sobs and hiccups, I lift her into my arms and carry her to the bed. Her eyes are red and swollen from how much she's cried. She doesn't protest when I cover her with a warm blanket. Her grip loosens around my shirt, and I tuck her hand under the blanket, making sure she's warm so she doesn't catch a cold. She's so exhausted after the breakdown that her eyes close as soon as she's under the blanket, clutching it close to her chest. Pressing a soft kiss to the top of her head, I move to the chair she sat in before. Heaving out a deep breath, I pick the diary from the table and open it, the pen still tucked between the pages where she's bled out her trauma. I set the pen on the table, lean back in the chair, and brace myself to read the pain she's written in ink. "I hope you don't hate me by the end of it." "Sienna, 9 years old, Sienna. Stop staring. Eat before it gets cold," she said, but her hand lingered on my shoulder for half a second too long before she turned back to the stove. "This is disgusting, Mama." I scrunched my nose, pushing the plate away. Mama smiled. "We should be grateful for what we have, Sienna." I rolled my eyes, crossing my arms over my chest, and looked the other way. "I want to eat pizza." Mama sighed, her smile fell, and she walked up to me. Crouching in front of me, she cupped my face. "Honey, you know we can't afford it." "Why not?" I whined, swatting her hand away. "Everybody can afford it." Taking a deep breath, Mama pulled the plate of food I pushed away between us. "Okay, eat it today. You can have pizza tomorrow." "No!" I refused and stood up. "I don't want to. I am not hungry anymore," I announced and walked away, stomping my feet against the uneven ground before escaping the suffocating and smelly neighborhood. Once I was near the highway, I sat by it, resting my back against the vast and firm tree. Pulling my knees closer to my chest, I buried my face in the heel of my palms and let the tear flow down. I hate it. I hate the kind of life I live. Everything is a torture. Mama is always working, only coming home for dinner and to sleep. The house always smells. The food is disgusting. I am 9 yet illiterate. I don't have any friends. This life is pathetic. I would rather die than continue a life like this. But I am scared. What if when I try to die it doesn't work and I am left like a burden to my mother? She already has so much on her plate, I don't want to add more to it. Sometimes she sleeps empty stomach because we don't have the food for 2. Sometimes she begs on this same highway for a grain of food. She tells me to be grateful for what I have. But what do I have? Nothing. A mother who is barely around. A house which leaks during the rain and smells all the time. Food which makes me lose my appetite all the time. I considered begging too. Maybe people would feel more pitiful towards a young girl and might give me better food. So when Mother left for work, which pays her close to nothing, I tried my luck. I returned to the same highway and begged. I kneeled in front of the woman who was throwing the half-eaten burger by her children, hoping for her mercy. But unfortunately, Mother returned early and found me begging and pleading. She rushed over to me, angry and sad. Grabbing my arm, she made me stand up roughly. "What do you think you are doing, Sienna?" I yanked my arm from her hold. I am hungry. I turned back to the woman who looked at me like I'm a walking disease. I didn't care. I wanted the food. Please, ma'am, I pleaded, ready to drop to my knees when my mother grabbed my arm in a painful grip, pinning me with a glare. She gritted out, "Don't kneel, Sienna." I shot back. I would fucking lick their boots if it gets me a decent meal. And the next moment, the echo of her palm connecting with my cheek ringed my ears as the flesh burned and stinged. The woman muttered something under her breath and slid back in her car, driving away. I cupped my assaulted cheek. Fresh tears brimmed at the corner of my eyes. I hate her. I hate her stupid morals. I hate her stupid ethics. I hate everything about her. As tears streamed down my cheeks, she ran a hand through her messy hair, her face twisted in agony. She reached for me, but I stepped back out of her reach. My lower lip wobbled as a burning sensation spread to the assaulted area. It felt like my cheek was on fire. "I hate you," I spat out. "I hate you so much," I shouted as cars and trucks raced on the highway. I stormed back to the filthy area I was tired of escaping from. I just want to live a decent life. What did I do to deserve a life like this? Why don't I have nice house clothes and food? So many kid does. Why am I different? What kind of punishment is this? After entering the shit of a house, I hid under the table and drew the fabric like a curtain hiding myself. This is the dollhouse my mother built me. And this is the only privacy I can afford in this house. I leaned against the wall behind me and buried my face in my palms, sobbing and crying. "What are you doing?" My sobs halted when I heard my mother's voice. Wiping my tears with the back of my hand, I focused on hearing better without stepping out. I am still mad at her. "Wait, let go of me. Who the fuck are you?" She barked out and my brows pinched together. Who is she talking to? The door of the house was pushed open, and I heard some shuffling before an unfamiliar voice fell in my ears. "Fuck you should be in a brothel." My frown deepened. "Brothel? What is that?" "Get out of my house!" Mama shouted, her voice laced with anger. Fearfully and hesitantly, I slightly pulled the curtain aside to take a peek. There was a very big man in the house, holding my mother's wrist as she struggled to free herself of his hold. "Come on, baby, give me a taste." He slurred his words mixed together like the neighbor who is always drunk. Is he drunk too? But who is he? And what is he doing here? My eyes swept over his figure. He is wearing clothes which doesn't belong to a man living in slum area. If he doesn't belong here, then who is he? Mama often told me to not wander around once the sky turns gray because bad people lingers around our neighborhood. It's an unsafe area. Is he one of them? The ground shook underneath my feet when he pushed my mother on the mattress in which we sleep. A gasp escaped my lips, and I quickly placed my hand on my mouth, silencing myself. He looks dangerous. Does that mean Mama is in danger? I pushed the curtain further and saw as he jumped over her, his lips crashed down on hers like he is trying to eat her. My stomach twisted with a sick feeling, and I felt my heart pounding against my chest. My mother screamed. Her cries went unheard when he moved his mouth lower, kissing her jaw and neck and chest, her wrist pinned above her head by his large hands. Her face turned as she squirmed under him, crying and thrashing, but failing to get what she wants. Freedom. That's when her eyes fell on me. She forced a smile on her face, blinked her eyes twice like assuring me everything is fine. But I was not a child. She was crying. My mother never cried. "Mama," I mouthed. Tears rolled down my cheeks. She shook her head silently, warning me to stay silent. If I stayed hidden, maybe she could handle it. My eyes flicked to the man hovering above her. He bit on her, and she screamed as blood trailed down from her neck. The sight made the bile rise in my throat. Fuck! Cursing. He unzipped his pants with one hand and then slid my mother's pants down. A shiver ran down my spine when he cupped her private part, squeezing it painfully. She screamed, tears rolled down her eyes, but he didn't stop. It was like he was deaf, or just inhumane. And then he turned, our eyes met. His so blue and sinister met my timid and cowardice ones. A lump lodged itself into my throat. I wanted to look away when he slid his boxers down and sat naked on top of my mother. My mother begging and crying underneath him as she tore her underwear bearing her. The sick man looked at me and smirked. "Do you like it, baby doll?" I shook my head vigorously. "Please, don't do this." I begged, my voice low, barely a whisper. He chuckled like my words are a joke. His private part disgusted me. I put my hand on my mouth, swallowing the filth. And to my horror, he thrusted his private part inside her, but she didn't make a sound as she laid unconscious on the mattress. "Come on, darling, I know you love it, don't you?" He groaned, increasing his pace. I buried my face in my palms, silencing myself when I should have screamed or thrashed. But I couldn't bring myself to move. I sat frozen. He pulled out of her, and I thought the torture finally ended. But then he rasped, "Open your eyes like a good girl and watch me fucking." I shook my head, but the sound of flesh slapping against flesh followed me, piercing through my ears like someone was pouring hot oil in my ears. I closed my eyes shut, crying, shaking my head and pleading him, "No, no, no." I chanted the words like prayer, my heart pounding against my cage like it would burst out of my chest. "Stop. Please, just stop." I begged, ready to kneel if this is what it takes him to leave to give me my life back. I drew the curtains aback and hide from his sight, his monstrous eyes haunting me and the ugly sounds penetrating deep in my soul. When the sound finally stopped, I looked up hesitantly. I pulled the fabric away and watched my mother lying in the mattress alone. My eyes roamed around in the empty room, and when I was sure that he was nowhere, I rushed to my mother, but my feet came to a halt when I saw the blood sticking to her thighs, staining the mattress. She was bleeding. Vittorio Moretti. When I tried to wake her up, she didn't move. After crying and screaming her name for hours, the loss dawned upon me. In the morning, the people gathered around our house, not because they were worried, but because they were curious about the screams they heard last night. But they didn't come when my mother screamed. But I didn't scream either, so who am I to blame them? Turned out my mother died. The man was rough, harsh, and inhumane. His force caused extreme injuries on the outside and inside her body. She bled out. And you know the worst part? My last words to her were, "I hate you." I remember the look in her eyes when I said that. She looked at me with pleading eyes. I thought she was asking me to stay hidden, but what if that's what I wanted to believe? What if she was pleading me for help, Vittorio? I looked my mother in the eyes when she was being raped, and I did nothing. I heard them murmur Vittorio, calling me sick, selfish, defected, taint, murderer. And I don't think they were wrong either. If I had been courageous enough, my mother would have been alive, by my side. Maybe the life might have gotten better for us. Since that day, I decided not to speak. Men started repulsing me naturally. It took me a lot of courage to believe in my father, my adoptive father, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. I tried, I really did, when Livia sat with me for hours hoping her company would get me to talk. But after so much time, it was like I had forgotten how to speak. And I have. I haven't made a sound since that day. I know it is a lot to take in. I understand if you do not want me around anymore, but please don't hate me. I can't take it. I trust you. I believe in you. I just can't live with the thought of you hating me. So please don't hate me. I closed the diary and exhaled a deep breath. Putting the diary on the side table, I buried my fingers in my hair. I cannot believe that people can be so heinous. So inhumane. I am in no position to be talking about morals, but I would rather chew my own hands than ever reach for a woman with such intentions. Now it all makes sense. Her fear of men, the traumatic mutism, and her constant fearful gaze. I ran a hand through my hair when my eyes flicked to her sleeping figure on the bed. Taking a deep breath, I watched her from afar and realized how petite and fragile she looked right now. So peaceful and relaxed, like the world didn't tore life apart, and then pathetically sew it back together. I stood up and walked over to the bed. Crouching next to the bed, I tucked a wild strand of hair which was falling on her face behind her ear. I caressed her cheek with my knuckles softly, and she stirred before leaning into my touch. My heart ached for the girl who blamed herself for something so heinous she was equally a victim in. Freezing when her mother was being tormented was not a choice she made with a sane mind. It was a response forced upon her by her brain. Such incidents do not work the same for everyone. It's always one of the three: flight, fight, or freeze. My eyes dropped to her lips, the same lips which has learned to stay shut ever since she believes she failed her mother. She mentioned in the diary that she hasn't spoken ever since, which is wrong. She made a sound when she was drunk. She might not remember it, but it's a good sign. Now I just have to get her into taking therapy, willingly. I moved to stand up and leave the room for some fresh air, as after finding out what happened to her and her biological mother, it feels suffocating. But then her hands crawled out of the blanket's warmth, and she clutched my one palm between her, both holding it close to her chest, tucked under her chin. Even though she was asleep, there was something about the way she held my hand like she didn't want me to go. Maybe I was an idiot, or maybe I was reading too much into these things. But nonetheless, I relaxed on the ground and rested my head against the edge of the bed. After some time, my eyes started feeling heavy with exhaustion, and I gave in to the tempting slumber which washed over me. My lashes fluttered open when I felt an unbearable ache in my arm. But when my eyes fell on the woman who laid in the bed, I realized she was awake. Her big doe eyes blinking softly as she kept her arm in a weird and painful angle to make sure that mine didn't hurt. The pain was just from the time when she was still asleep. She looked up at me, and our eyes met. Her lips pressed in a thin line, her gaze avoiding mine, like the shame and embarrassment was threatening to drown her into a never-ending abyss. My eyes moved to her hand still in mine, our fingers interlaced. Seems like in sleep I latched onto her for warmth, too. Lifting our interlaced hands, I placed a tender kiss at the back of her palm, and she looked up. Those beautiful eyes widened in surprise and lips parted. The corner of my lips tugged upwards in a small smile, and I just said one thing, shrugging, "Told you." My expression softened. Nothing you ever say or do can make me hate you. Sienna Moretti. She saw me. She knew I was watching. And then she did nothing. She didn't fight. I paused. My chest felt hollow as I forced myself to sign, maybe she thought I would. Dr. Bennett passed me a glass of water, and I took it with shaky hands. Bringing it closer to my lips, I took a sip before setting it down on the table. "It wasn't your fault, Sienna." My eyes flickered up at her words, nodding absent-mindedly because she was paid to say this. The people from that neighborhood would disagree. She was in survival mode, too. She wasn't expecting rescue from a child. She was just trying to make it through the moment. Just like you. She added, her voice soft and understanding. But I didn't need understanding. I wanted someone to agree to me, to make me feel like the villain I was, the monster I was. Why do people keep being kind to me when I failed the only woman who fought day and night to provide me so much with little to nothing she had? My hands trembled and tears brimmed at the corner of my eyes, but I blinked them back. I won't cry. I promised to myself that I won't. As if sensing my discomfort, Dr. Bennett changed the topic. "Let's just talk about her, who she was, what you remember." She paused, treading the line carefully, before she added, "outside of that night." I didn't move. Her memories, as much as I remember, reeled in my head like a movie playing on loop. The moments where we laughed, the moments when I rushed to her at every minor convenience, the moments where life felt enough, the moments where we were happy. After a long, slow pause, grateful for Dr. Bennett's patience, I signed one word with a small smile, grateful. She was always grateful, whether she had something or not. Actually, she was just grateful for having me. She never said it to me, but I heard it one night when she thought I was asleep. I was not, and I wish I would have told her that I was grateful for having her too. No wonder Indian food tastes delicious. There are around 10 different spices for one dish only. Vittorio said from the kitchen as I smiled to myself. We returned to Italy 2 days ago, and the first thing he did after returning was convinced me to see a therapist. I was not sure, but for him here, I was trying. And today he was cooking Indian food for me after I told him that Indian food is my favorite. "Come on, Sienna, help this poor man a little," he requested, and I curbed the smile before getting down from the couch and walking over to him in the kitchen. I signed, "What do I do?" "Chop these vegetables for me," he said, sliding the plate of tomatoes, onions, and garlic to me. Okay, Indian food is my favorite, but the cooking is definitely a task. We could have just ordered it. Sighing, I started chopping the vegetables as he fried cottage cheese and boiled some potatoes. "This smells delicious," I signed to him. He shrugged cockily. "Must be the magic of my hands," I grinned, "or the magic of these spices." His cocky smile fell, and he rolled his eyes, taking out the cottage cheese pieces and putting it in a plate. "No, the vegetables are not supposed to be cut like that," he pointed out. I frowned. Then, "Here, let me show you," he said, and stood behind me, bringing his arms forward from around my waist. His hand covered mine as he started teaching me how the vegetables were to be chopped for this dish. But I could barely focus on any of that when he was so close to me. His scent coiled around me, his warm breath caressing my neck, and his body pressing into mine. His proximity was overwhelming. "Sienna, focus." He murmured in my ear, his voice low, almost a whisper. My breath hitched. Swallowing a lump in my throat, I nodded. His lips brushed against my neck, and my knees grew weak, but I said nothing. "You are distracted." I wonder who is to blame." His lips pressed against my flesh firmly now. My eyes closed shut, and my stomach fluttered with an inexplicable feeling as I felt his fingers drawing random patterns on the back of my palm. He hummed, dragging the tip of his neck over my skin, all the way from my neck to the curve of my shoulder. "You do not seem like a very good student," he whispered in my ear, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Feeling offended, I turned around to face him with a glare. "And I think you are a bad teacher," I signed quickly. His grin widened as he stepped closer, resting his arms on the kitchen counter. He caged me between his body and the kitchen counter. "Oh, really?" he teased and brought his face closer until our lips were inched apart. "Shouldn't I prove you wrong, then?" My mouth dried and my heart raced wildly against my chest as my gaze dropped to his lips. My eyes lifted to meet his for a quick moment before dropping to his lips again. My lips parted, chest heaved up and down like it would combust with all the overwhelming feeling flooding in my veins. "Kiss me, Sienna." The air knocked out my lungs at his words. My eyes widened in surprise. "Let me show you how good of a teacher I am," he added, and the next moment I stretched on my toes, cupping his face. I pressed my lips against his. His hands instantly abandoned the kitchen counter, bracing my waist instead. Without breaking the kiss, he turned our positions, bringing me over him as he leaned against the kitchen counter. Our lips moved in sync. My hands cupped the nape of his neck, fingers threading through his hair as he kissed me back like I had kept him starved. I dared to take the lead and bit on his bottom lip. He groaned in my mouth and parted his lips, allowing me to deepen the kiss. His hands tightened around my waist as he pulled me flushed against his chest. It was only when I felt his hard length pressed against me that I pulled back from the kiss. My cheeks burned, and suddenly it seemed hot in here. Rubbing the back of his neck nervously, he turned around, adjusting his pants, and I looked away too, feeling the heat only rising. Good God. He was busy fixing his pants when his phone rang on the table in the living room. "Can you please check it?" he requested. Nodding without looking at him, I rushed to the living room and checked the caller ID. Nolan Williams. I returned to the kitchen with his phone and answered it before putting it on speaker at his request. I held the phone up as a masculine voice came from the other side. "Am I speaking to Mr. Vittorio Moretti?" The voice sounded oddly familiar as an eerie feeling replaced the giddy one. But I failed to understand, where do I recognize this voice from? "Yes, Mr. Williams," he replied, his voice turning firm. "My father gave me your number." Then he must have discussed my problem as well. The voice on the other side replied, When he stood straight, I handed his phone back to him, but he stayed in the kitchen, the phone on speaker. The stranger's voice reaching in the corners of my head, making the nerves in my head throb. "Not really," Vittorio replied, trying to sound careless, but the look on his face said more than the tone of his voice. "How was your meeting with my father, anyways?" "Oh, it was incredible," the man on the other side replied. "Such a shame I missed the chance of meeting you." Vittorio hummed. "I am glad that night didn't turn into a business discussion." "Why don't like doing business with us?" the man on the other hand joked. Vittorio's tone remained serious as he shifted his weight from one leg to another. "That's not it." His eyes found me in the kitchen, and a smile painted his lips as he told the man on the other side of the phone, "Actually, I was there for family dinner with my wife. That's why." Vittorio Moretti. Fuck, I love my married life. Because I fucking love my wife. When her therapist told me about a certain things to be careful of while getting closer was to never dominate her. The key to make her feel comfortable with intimacy without triggering her is making sure that she always feels in control. So when we were kissing in the kitchen 2 days ago, I flipped our positions to bring her in a comparatively controlling position, and it was a success. She was not triggered. I think the therapy and the therapist's methods are working. We are trying to take it slow, but I am happy that she has become comfortable in both my company and with my proximity. "Do you want to watch a movie tonight?" she signed, standing at the threshold of my room, dressed in a silk nightrobe, unlike the cotton pajamas she usually wore. My eyes dropped to the strings of her robe, her fingers fidgeting with it nervously. Cocking an eyebrow at her as a smile danced at the corner of my lips, I asked, "What are we watching?" Her smile widened and she bit her bottom lip to suppress her smile before answering me, "Something romantic?" Her sign language failed to hide her hesitancy. Closing the file shut, I climbed out of bed and walked over to her. Resting my hand on the doorway, I leaned against it, the motherfucking smile brightening when her cheeks flushed. I love the sound of it. She looked up through her long, thick lashes shyly. Our eyes met, and my mouth dried. God, this woman drives me crazy and holds my sanity in the palm of her hand. My hand itched to hold her, but I kept them to myself and gestured to her to lead the way. When we settled in the comfort of the soft, luscious couch, she played the movie. She sat with her legs tucked under her and a pillow in her lap. My gaze kept drifting to her, because how do I look anywhere when she sits so comfortably next to me? There is something about earning her trust and believe which makes my chest swell with pride. It feels like a win. I would love to treasure like my most prized possession. Her big doe eyes stay fixed on the television screen as my eyes trace the outline of her side profile, drinking in the sight of her, like I am seeing her for the first time. Every time I see her, she is all I can see. Because how do I betray my own self by taking my gaze off her? How do I disappoint my own self by turning my gaze to something which would never match to her level of serenity, beauty, and innocence? I have never been a fan of poetry, never understood that shit, but then she came in my life with poetic meaning to every favorite, whether it's a color song or movie. Then I saw how poets define beauty like hers, and now every poem seems to be on her. Like everyone imagined a fairy princess woman to be like her. Like everyone imagined beauty to be like her. And I am one lucky bastard to witness what most of the people died imagining and writing it down. One moment I was watching her, and the next moment the emotions got so overwhelming that I ended up placing my head in her lap on the pillow, surprising her. Her eyes flit to me, eyes wide and lips parted. Mine curved in a mischievous smile. "I love you." Again. "I love you." Louder this time. "I love you." I want to say it, shout it, carve it into the goddamn sky until it fills every corner of me, and still it won't be enough. The words are too plain, too short, too fragile to hold what I feel, what I would give her, what I would become for her. So instead, I just look at her, hold on to her, pray she feels every unspoken thing roaring inside me. "What are you doing?" She signed, the sound of her heart beating fast, audible from this close. The voice of television characters turned into background noise. "Getting comfortable," I responded, grinning. She lifted her hands again to sign something when I interlaced my fingers with hers and brought her hand down. Without breaking the eye contact, I placed a tender kiss at the back of her hand and rested it on my chest, right over where my heart beat. "Let's focus on the movie," I whispered. "Shall we?" Grinning. I turned in her lap, watching the movie. After some time somewhere during the movie, I felt her free hand reaching for my head. Her fingers threaded through my hair as she massaged my scalp, softly engrossed in the movie. I sighed with contentment. This feels good. Domestic. So fucking good. When the movie came to an end, I thought of pretending to be sleeping, so she would let me be here at least until the dawn, close to her, but decided otherwise because as much as I would love to be near her, she needs to sleep comfortably too. Just when I stood up to retire to my room with a good night, she caught my wrist. I paused. My eyes moved back and forth between her face and where she held me by wrist. I looked down at her with question. A moment of silence fell between us. She swallowed something before signing her thoughts, or more like a request, hesitantly, "Kiss me, Vittorio." Her request traveled right to my heart, threatening to burst it with the shift in the air. My lungs felt like they might collapse, my knees might give up on me, and my heart might just stop beating. And before any of that could happen, before I am forced to surrender to my doom at her altar, I clutched on the moment present in front of me. My wife, my woman, the reason of my insanity and sanity mixed together. I dropped to my knees on the ground and pulled her face closer, holding her by the nape of her neck. Resting our foreheads together, I met her eyes once for a brief second before the thread of restraint snapped and I slammed my lips against hers. Her hands found their home onto my shoulders as she leaned down to deepen the kiss from the couch. My free hand moved to her waist, holding her in place so she won't fall down from the couch, while I stayed kneeled on the ground like a devotee, worshiping at her altar. My fingers threaded through her hair, angling her head to deepen the kiss. I groaned at the maddening feeling coursing through my veins. I took her bottom lip between my teeth, nibbling on it gently, but my body froze with a mix of joy and surprise when I heard her moan. Unmistakably hers.